Hello. Um, this is going to be a bit different to what I usually do. I'm going to be literally going through a few of the vehicles I've designed. This particular vehicle has been designed for a particular purpose. Um, Quite often, the number of weapons and the size of the vehicle just gets well over the top. A friend of mine, which who is known on here as Minichamps F1 on YouTube. Um, he generally sticks tons and tons of missiles on his boats. So, to try to counter that, we decided to come up with some rules to build a boat. Okay, so this particular boat required wood or metal only, a maximum of 10,000 material cost, and a maximum of 3 sets of up to 4 weapons per set. So I've gone for 2 sets of 4 and 1 big huge cannon. They were the rules basically. Other than that, we could do pretty much what we wanted. So I'm going to show you what I've got inside. We haven't battled them yet, so I have no idea how effective they're going to be, but you never know. Anyway, so inside we have let's raise it out of the water so we can see what's going on. We have an interesting front end. It's quite sculpted inside. I've got sections of the ERA armor box located around to try to soak up any explosive damage that comes in. Wood, as you can probably imagine, is rather explosive. Behind the scenes there are 2 small steam engines, one on each side of the boat, so that if one side of the boat gets damaged, the other side should be okay to carry on. The one thing that is a bit down is that I've only been able to use 1 propeller. It's more than enough though for this boat, believe me. So underneath I have a special set out here. Now all of these propellers have a particular purpose. The side ones are roll, so the idea is to try to keep it upright. The middle ones are continuous height, so to try to keep the boat afloat. And the idea behind this is that when the boat is being attacked, rather than it sinking down to the bottom of the ocean, it stays level. It doesn't tip over, and everything's all happy and hunky-dory and all that kind of stuff. So this is a wooden bottom boat. As I said before, but metal and wood were the limits for usage. That's why there's no lead keel on the bottom. Otherwise I'd have used one of those. I could have used a metal keel, but because I have propellers surrounded by ERAs, and above this I have a slightly more protected section, slightly, then I thought this will do. That'll do. The gun is a 940mm shell. Not a huge range, but to be fair, it's deadly enough. It should do enough of a blast. All the missiles on the side are torpedoes. They are about 8 in length, I believe, which is 16 pieces, something like that. Consists of torpedo propellers, fuel tanks, a regulator to make sure it lasts longer, explosive warheads mostly, with a few fragmentations. These seem to work well for my mate, so why not? Yeah, so anyway, that's the first boat in the showcase collection. So, the next boat I'm going to show you is one of my favourites. It's, where is it? It's a Blackpool, an SS Blackpool. I'm going to show you the one without many major modifications to it, because this is my favourite one. I designed this mostly as a little tug, just to have a tug really. It's got a traditional fuel engine with rounded edges on all sides, slightly flat front, as most tugs would have. It's mainly made of light alloy and metal. I believe the sides are metal and the inner top deck section is all light alloy, if I remember right. This funnel is currently inactive. I was considering putting the exhaust through there. One advantage to this boat is that the heat from the exhaust pulls any heat-seeking missiles towards the front of the boat, which is rather open. But it does mean that the rear of the boat is quite well protected. So we have the engine in here. This engine's less likely to be damaged, and therefore power still be provided. It does only have 2 propellers, but I think if I remember right, it does about 9 meters a second. Let's give this a quick go. There we go. So it chugs along quite nicely. It's got a flag on the top. It does have a mainframe in here somewhere. Is this the one with the mainframe? Yeah, it just doesn't have a connection to it, because the mainframe is here. Up a bit. It's in there. It's behind this wall. There it is. So it does have a mainframe. It's completely capable of doing AI stuff if need be. So it's controllable, obviously, because of that. Just literally stick a card on it and you can then control it in a fleet. It's another one of my favourite constructs, mostly because of its shaping. It took quite a while to make. 160,000 material cost. A lot of that's probably due to the engine rather than anything else. Right, so let's get rid of that one. And let's bring in yet another vehicle. I'm going to bring in my Squidward. I'm going to bring in the original design first before I show you what I've done to it. So the Squidward, my friend has a few other names for it, but it's mostly due to the shape. But anyway, the idea behind this is that the weaponry is mostly towards the rear of the vehicle, so that any attack from the front is less likely to take out the weaponry. It's quite a smooth flat top to it, so the idea there is that, you know, things go over the top. It doesn't work quite like that in reality. It does take quite a lot of damage. It's built like an aeroplane. So if I pull it out of the water, you can see what I mean. It is literally built like an aeroplane, and that is actually a flaw in its design. It gives it flat edges for things to hit against. This section underneath is quite explosive, so quite often gets taken out and blows itself up. Similar story with this, again explosive. Rear firing torpedoes on both sides again. These guns, they are well, mostly for show, to be fair. They don't really do a lot. The range is okay, but they don't do a lot of damage. That's partly because at the time I did not have a clue what I was doing with advanced cannons. The main guns on the rear, they're all the same, or they should be. So they are 1225 mil guns, so slightly larger than the 10k ship I showed you earlier. The driver actually sits right in the middle, about here. There he is. It's surrounded by a bit of a metal box, but this actually is quite flawed too. I have a bit of a problem when it comes to designing these. Is that I always leave the front quite open, because I like the idea of being able to see where you're going as a driver. If I protected that, it'd probably last better. The other issue is that I've actually double layered this. I've got light alloy and then metal on the top. The light alloy is to provide buoyancy, so when it goes down a bit it stays up. Doesn't work brilliantly, but it works a bit. And it provides double layers from the top. But obviously as soon as you get a hole in the top, it comes through and it kills you. Let's go down a layer. So this is like the flat layer in the middle. There's a few repair bots here, there's not much else. And to the last bottom layer. So I was originally intending to have quite a lot of missiles, and it just doesn't work very well for this particular design, so kind of gave up with that. Head towards the rear here. Ammo makers, and in the centre we've got the customizer for the side. And then round the back here, just in here, this is where the ammo is stored and where the rear gun is built from. So you can imagine one shot on that ammo and the gun comes off. I tried this particular boat with ion what do they call it? Ion thrusters. The ion thrusters are okay, but to be fair, the more propellers you have, the better, because it just keeps going. I only have steering propellers on the left, on the rear and the front and the rear for additional steering. The front ones generally get taken out, so it's very rare that this thing actually steers correctly. I'm now going to load up the latest version of this So, the Squidward 4. I love the name, it's brilliant. So, here he is. And as you can see, it's the same design. The differences here is that I have added some, well, that's a standard weapon. This is my own custom ammo weapon. I've provided a bit of cover on the top here so this doesn't get hit so much from the top. I've got a little mini autocannon. You can see I've also tried to do some shielding. The shielding does work sometimes. It does not work against missiles, which is a pain in the backside. Going down underneath, so to keep it afloat I've had to create boxes underneath. So I've created electrical generation in them just to give them a purpose. It provides it with a bit more buoyancy and flotation, and I've added some more ion thrusters on the side, so I can get an extra 2 or 3 meters a second out of this thing by using the ion thrusters, but it's just not worth it. As you can tell, I haven't really adjusted these are still 1225s, and the design is pretty much the same. But note, you shoot something here, you blow it all up. So that gun is now actually more dangerous to my own ship than it was before. The particle cannon works, but it's just not worth having. It's great for a fortress, I think, but I don't think it works on a boat unless you've got it on a turret. So that's the Squidward 4. Right, I'm going to have a quick look. I'm going to grab one more. I'm going to go back to the Blackpool, and I'm going to choose, let's choose version 19. Is that a good one to choose, or is 17 a good one? I think 17. Yes, 17. Okay, so I'm going to load up version 17. So this was a little tug with no weaponry on it that I then called an armoured steamship because, well, I changed the engine to steam and I stuck weapons on it. And boy, did I stick weapons on it. Tug, right. I'll tell you what, I'm going to load up the original next to it so you can see the difference. Okay, so, there we go. So, there's the two ships next to each other. There are an awful lot more weapons on this than that. I've actually mixed two types of steam in here. We've got the black smoke, which is created from smoke generators, which are these. And we've also got a steam one here, which eventually, when it hits, was it 496? 496. It'll start piping out white smoke as well. It's mostly for effect than anything else. So the gun on the rear is a default weapon. These guns are default weapon, or the missiles are default weapons. I believe, yep, I have. There we go. Default weapons again. Just for, I think these are porpoises. Default weapon again. Literally, I just got a load of default weapons and stuck them on. I think there's a big bertha here. So yeah, you see, I've just literally hammered it full of weaponry. And with 198,000 material cost, you can understand that this is, well, different to this one. So it's gone up by 30,000, and that's just on the weapons alone. Steam, I think, brings it down slightly because the original engine was very different. As you can see, I've stuck shield generators actually on the turrets. This is to try to provide the turrets a little bit more defense. I've done that on pretty much all of them. They are all running off of steam power. So if I jump on the boat, you can see we've got 19,000. What's the boat? 19,000 engine. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this. I will do a few more next time. Thanks.